In a more complex or enterprise-like application, you need to know what environment your code is running on. Is this a development environment or a production environment? Perhaps you may want to enable or disable certain features based on the current environment. For example, let's imagine we want to enable logging of HTTP requests only in the development environment, on a development machine, but not in production. So let me show you how to do this. Earlier, you learned about this process object. This is a global object in Node that gives us access to the current process. This process object has a property called env, which gives us the environment variables. Now, we have a standard environment variable called Node_env. And this environment variable returns the environment for this Node application. If it's not set, here we're going to get undefined. Alternatively, we can set this from the outside. We can set this to development, to testing, to staging, or production. So for this demo, let's log this on the console. So console.log, I'm going to use the backtick character to define a template string. Node_env is $, curly braces, and here's our process.env.node_env. Now we have another way to get the current environment, and that is via the app object. So this app object has a method called get that we use to get various settings about this application. Now, one of the settings is env. This method internally uses this environment variable to detect the current environment. However, if this environment variable is not set, this will return development by default. Let me show you how that works. So console.log, backtick, the label is app, and here we add $ with curly braces, and then app.get of env. Now back in terminal, look, our environment variable is not set, so that's undefined. But app.get is returning development by default. Okay, so this is the difference. Now, which approach to choose is purely your personal preference. Now, in this demo, we want to enable logging of HTTP requests only on a development machine. So we can write code like this. If app.getEnv is development, then we're going to enable Morgan. And also for debugging, I'm going to display something on the console. So Morgan enabled. Okay, now let's delete these two lines. We don't need them anymore. Back in the terminal, because this is my development machine, you can see Morgan is enabled. Now let's stop this process, set the environment variable to production, run the application again, and then you will see that Morgan will not be enabled. So stop this process with Control and C. We set our environment variable using export on Mac or set on Windows. So Node_env, we set this to production. Now let's run the application one more time. So nodemon index. Okay, look, we only get this message, listening on port 3000. We don't have Morgan enabled. So this is how you can tell if your code is running on a development, testing, staging, or a production machine.